it's very custom depending on what you're
As a
doing.
tank, you kind of have you kind of have your warnings when to taunt, kind of in the middle. As a healer, you got your bars in front of you, so you can see who's got dead health. You know, it's that.
Exactly. So you got to take that into consideration as well. I mean, I would not recommend to blindly copy my interface. I'm just showing you you guys as an example of how I've set this up for tanking purposes. Does anyone have any other suggestions of any add-ons that do similar things to weak auras?
Let me just log my shaman. I'm gonna see if that thing works. I'll let you guys know.
Yeah, and I'll add it to the list then because it's definitely worth looking at. If people are interested as well in if they want me to go through any weak auras and how to actually use weak auras, I could do that in the future at some point as well. But I mean, essentially, sorting out your UI, it's going to improve your gameplay if you've got things in the right place. You can do this with the default Blizzard frames. The only concern I have is where the buffs and the debuffs are, and being able to actually filter out relevant ones for you. That's my only concern with the default setup. So. Really, I would suggest trying to use some sort of add-on that allows you to filter is really important. So you can filter all that crap out and move stuff so you can see it.
I feel like I should also say that even though this is some advice to like use some add-ons, you don't have to. You can be successful without them. Often. Try an add-on, see if it improves your game, see if you feel more confident, and if not, you can kind of live without it, if you see what I mean. However, there are some very important ones. It's more a case of individual, needs, taste.
Yeah, everybody's got their own individual needs and requirements. So really, just have a look and see what's out there and see if anything's really suitable for what you want.
Because I just like being difficult, but I don't use many at all.
No, I know that there's people in that situation. I've spoken to a lot of decent players who can get by without using many add-ons at all. A lot of good PvP players don't really use many add-ons.
I think that's where it comes from myself too.
Yeah.
But it's more a case of I know like I bind my WASD, but as up, down, left, right, and then I have all my buttons around it in kind of like proc format, like so if you've got an interrupt, have it nearby your W, that sort of thing, whereas cooldowns, have them on your bars that you click with your mouse, that sort of principle,
Yeah, anything where you need to react to a scenario, that button needs to be available.
Yeah, it's got to be close to your movement because that's or if of course you've got buttons on your mouse, it's the same thing there. You have your most important ones there,
Yeah, when it comes to just your general rotation and things like that, when you're going to need to use those. It's things that you don't know, events that you're not aware of where you need to react to.
From rebalance by the server. Is moved to pink quarters.
And if you are using any add-ons to move stuff around on your screen, I personally would suggest displaying information around sort of a focal point, and as the information gets less important, then you can put it further out towards the edge of the screen. But anything you need to know should be near the center. And as you saw, for a tanking purpose, it's quite useful to have those things like external cooldowns right in front of your face, and any procs, defensive procs, right up there as well. For DPS, it might be different. You might want to know when your trinket is procced, for example, so you know when to weave in some DPS abilities, and you're probably going to want some sort of debuff thing to appear there as well, if for any sort of boss mechanics.
I think, by the way, with the PvP players that are quite good at it, I think if you want to participate in arenas and stuff like that, you're not actually allowed to use add-ons.
Yeah, because if you're taking part in the big competitions, it's just all default stuff, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Have Blizzard done anything then to improve the way that you can sort of filter out your buffs and debuffs? Because
you can. You've got let me just press escape and I'll read them off to you. You've got things like you've got your buffs, debuffs, and then you don't have too many. You got dispellable, castable, consolidate, and then show all enemy debuffs. So it's one of these things where, you know, you're a healer, you need to know dispellable ones. You're a tank, you don't. You know, it's too simple, to be honest. I would definitely, its buffs is something you need to look at getting an add-on for, just because you can make them bigger. You know, you can put them in the middle, the front, above your chat bar, you know, above your AFK station, wherever you put it, you know.
Yeah, exactly, and I think, you know, it'd be nice if Blizzard allowed that, well, it implemented that sort of customization in the future, which I'd imagine they probably will do in some future patch. As for key binding, now PvP players, I would imagine that 99% of all the top PvP players will have a significant number of keybinds. You can click alongside it, but for critical things and reactive things, you really need those keybinds. It just improves reaction time, and as I said before, it's something that it is a bit of a change if you're just used to clicking, but I would highly recommend it. You can get by with just clicking, but if you really want to improve your game, I do feel that key binding is the way forward, particularly if you play a warrior or a DK. Actually, I find there's lots of multiple button pressing going on now, like with my rune strike and stuff.
That just gives you an overall quicker reaction time if you keybind everything.
I'd agree. It's a one-button thing, you know. Healing touch, click. Whereas you got to move your mouse and click something. It's too slow, you know, especially in reactive circumstances. And as a healer or a tank, you have a lot of them, you know.
Yeah, so if you haven't played the healer or the tank role, then you probably haven't been aware of the circumstances where you do sometimes need an oh crap button. Whether you know, if you're paladin healing and you're healing a tank, for example, and the tank drops to like 2% health, you're going to want to lay on hands, and you're not going to want to have to move your mouse over there because he could have died in that time.
Yeah. I have the same thing as a druid, resto druid. You've got a thing called Nature's Swiftness, which gives you an instant castable spell with 50% increased healing or damage and free mana cost. And so you want to tie that in as a healer with healing touch. That's your biggest, you know, your best heal, and it can crit for 200k. It's massive. So you want that one to be your cooldown button. You click, and you don't, and so you want to use a macro, you know, or a keybind, you know, to double press, you know, to hit these things quickly. Because if you've got to click, then click, you've lost it, you know.
Tool tip, Nature's Swiftness / run session are auto shift 0
on weak auras, I mean, I've got a few set up and I've got the clock ticking around. How do you set it to show the seconds counting down?
You would need to. There's some syntax at the top that you need to select percentage P, I think it is, for progress on the ability, and then you can increase the size of the text and the location of the text on the icon as well on that same screen. So on that first
Channel
screen,
trees,
hang on, let me have a
mine's
look.
a little easier to P. Channel trees / show tooltip nature's swiftness / stop casting / use nature's swiftness / stop casting / use healing touch.
So yeah, if you go onto the display section, you see where it says text there.
I
You
also
can
use a similar one for my
you've
trees.
got various options you can put in there. I mean, you can even customize these things. There's a custom one that you can set where you can actually write the code in yourself, and I did make some code a while ago for shield barrier, so it actually showed me what my shield barrier would be in terms of percentage of my health, because I personally could visualize that better than just a pure number. But as for things like absorbs and shields and things like that, there's also some good add-ons.
/res one for in combat and in the raid with inclusive raid warning.
Another thing that's quite cool as well that you can do with weak auras is you can actually you can tell it to export a chat message, for example, into the raid or into /say. It's particularly effective for things like interrupts. I think LVUI has that built in anyway. It can mention that. I always like to output that in a raid situation in /say, just so that people can see that you've interrupted it, so that they don't need to worry. That can sometimes be quicker than an audio queue if people aren't very vocal, so that's always worth looking at. And things like skull banners and things like that as well.
I still really like the add-on Tell Me When for popping up and telling you when you need to do things and when your spells are ticking. For me as a druid, it's like it's so difficult without it. It was quite ridiculous to know which target my dot was on, which targets were dotted. Obviously for multi-dotting, it's a huge issue. And Tell Me When was the business there. Like, I just went and downloaded a custom. They have lots of profiles predefined already, so I found one for Boomkin and then just tweaked it a little to how I wanted it, and it's improved my gameplay a hell of a lot.
Right, does anybody have any more questions?
I managed to get key binding sorted to different pages using Bartender.
Yeah, Bartender's a good one to do that. LVUI, TuckUI is a nice add-on package that's got all sorts built into it. Well, if you guys need any help in the future in this sort of area, just drop me a message and I'll see what I can do. And there's lots of other people who can help you as well. I mean, Tree's popped on today. You might not know him. He's started playing recently. He's a friend of Steven's, but he's quite an experienced player. He's done a lot of PvP and stuff in the past. So Dennis as well is here. He loves playing with interfaces. So if you don't know him as Dennis, you might know him as Arixus.
Oh yeah, if you need UI help, I'm always happy to help. I really just enjoy helping people with that.
Yeah, and I mean, Dennis has linked some really interesting examples of what you can do with UIs as well. So yeah, it's definitely worth. I mean, look on the internet. There's loads of resources available. I'm just really trying to improve awareness, really, of the importance of tweaking your interface to your needs. It makes a massive difference. It really helps. It's helped me. So there's definitely something you can do, even if it's just with the basic Blizzard setup. There's stuff you can do with that. Is there anything anyone else wanted to add at all?